Good morning, everyone. Today's video is about illustrating quadratic equation. So basically, this is an introduction about this particular topic. So I will just define what quadratic equation is, and later on, I will give you non-examples of quadratic equation as well as examples of quadratic equation. And of course, on top of that, I will discuss the different forms of quadratic equation briefly, and also you will see the graph of quadratic equation and compare that to the graph of a linear equation. So let's start with this one. What is a quadratic equation? So basically it is a second degree polynomial equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a cannot be equal to 0. And this form right here is what we call the standard form. So aside from that, we also have the vertex form, which is this in this form. Right. Actually, I have more details about this form in my YouTube channel. So if you want to learn about this, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please like this one, and then you can watch all those videos about this one. And then of course the last one is what we call the factored form, which is like this. All right. And one thing also we need to remember about quadratic equation is this is uh, the root of that word quadratic. It is from a Latin word quadratus, meaning square. Um, so let me just derive to you and show you why a second degree polynomial is called quadratic. All right, so we have a square here, and we know that the area of a square is s squared, right? Now, if the length is x, that means the area is x squared. All right, so that's just an additional information for us about the word quadratic, because maybe you're thinking quadratic, oh, that's 4. Yes, 4, that's four-sided polygon. And maybe some you're thinking then the highest degree is 4, not 2. But that's the origin of that quadratic equation. All right, let's move on now. Now here we will identify which one is quadratic and which one is not. Right? Obviously, the first one is not. All right, it's not because it's linear. All right, the highest exponent that you see or the degree of polynomials this one is 1. So if the degree of polynomial is 1, we call that linear. This is linear. Now letter B is an example. Although this is not in standard form, let me just rearrange this and convert this into standard form. All right, or transform this into standard form. So there you go. Right, the highest or the degree of polynomial of this one is 2. So this is an example of quadratic. Letter C, if you saw if you remember rather the previous slide, you know that this is quadratic because this is in factored form. So how can we get that x squared? Because we want to see that. Well, we will use FOIL method here to multiply these two binomials, right? That's x times x, that gives us x squared, right? And then x times 3 is 3x. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. And finally, negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Combine the similar terms. That gives us x squared minus 5x minus 24 equals 0. So that's now obvious that this is quadratic. The last one is obviously not quadratic because the degree of polynomial is 3. We actually call that cubic. All right. Now, after this, I'm going to show you the different forms of quadratic equation and also the graph of quadratic equation. We will compare that to a linear equation or the graph of a linear equation. Right? So let's graph a linear equation first. Let's see. 4x minus 5 equals 5y equals Let's add another one. Right, there you go. So this is linear right here, as you can see. Right, that's linear. Now let's compare that to a quadratic equation. All right, so we can start with y equals x squared plus 2x minus 5. All right, there you go. Let's change this to, no, not that one, this one. Let's change, no, no, there you go. All right, so as you can see, it's a U-shaped graph. Right, so and this is the standard form. Now what about if we have a vertex form? Let's see, let's start with y equals negative, let's see, 3, and then x plus 5. Let's change that to 4 square minus 1. Right, let's just erase this. Linear, so linear function or linear equation, we have a straight line. A U-shaped graph is called a parabola. So this is the vertex form. All right, that's negative 3 times x plus 4 square minus 1. And the last one, factored form. Let's see, factored form. We have x plus 5. Now let's change that to 7. And x minus 1. All right, so let's see what we have here. Let's change this to y. Oh, what happened? Okay, let's just change that. X minus 7, and then x plus 5. There you go. Okay, so that's the quadratic equation, or how do we illustrate quadratic equation, and also how do we identify a quadratic equation from a non-quadratic equation. And as you can see here, we have the graph of quadratic equation, which is a U-shaped graph. It can open upward, it can open downward. More onto that in my next videos. And again, we call this parabola. Okay, thank you for watching. You have a nice day. Bye-bye.